You begin the book Rationality with a quote, and it is a quote by Bertrand Russell, and he says, "Man is a rational animal, so at least we have been told. Throughout a long life, I have searched diligently for evidence in favor of this statement. So far, I have not had the good fortune to come across it." So, if we want to preserve this idea that man is rational, what must rational mean? I mean, do you conceive of rationality as a sort of dispositional quality in the sense that while not all people think or act reasonably, we evolved with this ability and are capable of acting in this way under the proper circumstances, as evidenced by like the forward march of human progress, even though in other instances, like with the QAnon or vaccine conspiracies that you mentioned, we're clearly not acting rationally?
Yeah, a couple of things. Um, One is forget March, forget relentless, forget inevitable. That's not how progress works. It's not like a march. It's more like Sisyphus, except a little more optimistic than Sisyphus in that it isn't zero advancement, but that is it's like two steps forward, one step back. But progress the kind that I've tried to document quantitatively is something that we eke out through, I argue, applications of reason in service of human betterment. That is, obviously, reason can be deployed for anything, including better, bioweapons or nuclear weapons. But to the extent that we use it to cure disease, to push back against hunger, to resolve wars, to increase safety, then we can make uh, piecemeal advances. And if we keep the ideas that work, if we try not to repeat our mistakes, then there can be a forward vector to our movement, even though there's a lot of zigging and zagging.
Mm-hmm.
Second, that Bertrand Russell quote that I use as epigraph for the first chapter, of course, was followed by another quote from Spinoza.
Mm-hmm.
He that can carp in the most eloquent or acute manner at the weakness of the human mind is held by his fellows as almost divine. So that was a wry comment on the fact that it's kind of cheap to take pot shots at human reason. And indeed, there's plenty to take pot shots at because humans can be, as we know, both from reading the news and research in cognitive psychology, excuse me, there's no shortage of blunders and fallacies and idiocies that people are capable of. But it's to dismiss human rationality altogether, as Russell did, that can't be right either. For one thing, Russell himself is a human being. He's not, an angel. He's not a space alien. So if he's capable of reason, then he's a human being, and so are all of us when we either hold human reasoning in practice up to a standard of rationality. Well, we have to be capable of entertaining that standard. But also, we have, not all of us all the time, but our species has gone to the moon, invented vaccines, smartphones, figured out DNA and the Big Bang and plate tectonics. Also, in our everyday lives, we humans have infested the entire planet. We've managed to live in deserts and in the Arctic and in rainforests and savannas. We did it not because we're the fastest or best armed or highest flying animal, but by our wits. We figured out ways of exploiting our environment, of extracting calories and protein, often at the expense of other species, but that's because we've outwitted them. And people in their everyday lives couldn't last a day unless they had some degree of rationality. Fridges don't fill themselves with food, and gas doesn't put itself in the car, and kids don't get off to school clothed and fed unless we arrange the environment to make that happen. So there's got to be some big endowment of rationality that makes all those feats possible. And the challenge really for a psychologist, and I guess also a philosopher, is how do you account both for the fact that we're capable of feats of rationality, but also of such colossal and conspicuous blunders. finally, you asked about what the concept of rationality itself. And indeed, it can be used in two senses. There is the normative sense of what counts as rational. What are the benchmarks? What's the ground truth? What really does follow from what else? Which collectively our best minds at their best moments try to articulate. And then there's and that is closer to philosophy. That's the normative aspect. Then, of course, there's the psychological or descriptive or empirical aspect of how does the human brain work? What are the pathways that it tends to take, either left to its own devices or with the help of tools that we've invented over the millennia and try to spread in education and writing.